Geraldo on major deception in Benghazi. Was Mitt Romney told by CIA's David Petraeus to back off? And this is basically a video clip from Fox and Friends where Geraldo, he basically says, look, this is to cover up an arms deal where Ambassador Stevens was brokering these surface-to-air missiles to the Turks who are going to give them to the Syrian rebels. And we're finally seeing this hit the mainstream news. It's not about he said, she said, how long did they know? Did they call off an attack? This was a hit on a man to cover up because he was the witness to the deal. He was the broker. And so they were basically killing off their loose end. But let's go to this London Telegraph article from September 5th, 2011 and see how it relates. Libya, al-Qaeda acquires weapons. Al-Qaeda's North African branch has acquired a stockpile of weapons in Libya, including surface-to-air missiles that are threatening air travel, says EU's counterterrorism coordinator, and the coordinator is Gilles de Kirchhoff. Due to the turmoil in Libya, members of al-Qaeda and the Islamic Maghreb have gained access to weapons, either small arms or machine guns or certain surface-to-air missiles, which are extremely dangerous because they pose a risk to flights over the territory. And now we don't know where these missiles have gone. We don't know who's got them. They're probably in Syria now, but they could go anywhere. Once this stuff hits the black market, you know, it's ripe cannon fodder for false flags, because anytime there's going to be a missile attack, they're going to blame it on al-Qaeda. And we're going to have to search everything in the world to catch these al-Qaedan rebels who we actually gave the missiles to. So let's go to that clip from Geraldo Rivera.
Was he briefed by David Petraeus and the CIA to suggest that there was a secret mission going on there, that we can't go there, we can't talk about it? I believe, and my sources tell me, they were there to round up those shoulder-fired surface-to-air missiles. They were going to hand those missiles over to the Turks, and the Turks were going to give them to the rebels in Syria. Right. It was like a Iran-Contra. I think that it merits gigantic investigation. It will all become clear.
And this was the same Geraldo who back during the Afghanistan war did exposés from Fox talking about how the troops were guarding the poppy fields. So kudos to him for actually getting it out there and getting the word out. It's about time. Mainstream media, you're about 6 months behind. We were reporting on this, I think September 19th was when we first reported on this about the missiles. So there you go.
Graham, I think the dam is about to break on Benghazi. And on his Senate site, on his Facebook, he says, I think the dam is about to break on Benghazi. We're going to find a system failure before, during, and after the attacks, a stand down by the special forces. They were ordered to stand down for 8 hours. Done. We knew when it happened. A week after, it was the al-Qaeda security force hired. While the CIA al-Qaeda security force, people are like, al-Qaeda, CIA? Yes, they run al-Qaeda. The CIA is run by foreign banks. I don't know how I have to explain this to you.
Share this video with a friend.
The situation in the Benghazi gate. We're going to be looking at that. They've got credible whistleblowers to speak tomorrow in a hearing. Now, folks, I already told you what happened. We know what happened. It came out. They stood down for 8 hours while al-Qaeda killed everybody in the building. The 5 regular people and the 2 SEALs, sheep-dipped in the CIA, who refused orders to stand down. They had to fire the head of CENTCOM over it because he threw a fit. They fired, it's like 10 or more other top admirals and generals. They had 2 Predator drones and a C-130 surveillance craft out in the Mediterranean. They had drones right above it. They sat there and watched. The Benghazi security force, this is not blowback. They went in there and they killed him so they could say the heat-seeking missiles, they had a warehouse there full of heat-seeking missiles. It's like 18,000 missiles, 10,000 of them heat-seeking. A bunch of them were reportedly there, according to all our sources. And look, we know 8-hour stand down, 8-hour stand down, while the CIA al-Qaeda security force People are like, al-Qaeda, CIA? Yes, they run al-Qaeda. The CIA is run by foreign banks. I don't know how I have to explain this to you. Benghazi stand-down denials don't stand up to reason. That's Forbes. I mean, this is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So all this big news coming out, because now CNN's reporting the same thing we've been saying in the last few days, is that we've caught them red-handed. There's no mystery to Benghazi. When it gets into a subject like Benghazi, I think the most amazing facet of it, and what kind of dumbfounds me personally, is that it's 100% fact that the White House, Obama, the State Department, the CIA, the Pentagon ordered a stand down and sat there and waited 14 hours to get people on the ground, and it took them over 6 hours to overrun the embassy substation arms cache and kill the people inside. It was the front office of a large warehouse complex out back with thousands of heat-seeking missiles, anti-aircraft guns, rocket launchers, so both small, medium, and some heavy arms. And I've spent the last day going back and digging up the Colonel Schaefer interviews, the Wayne Madsen interviews, the Dr. Steve Pieczenik interviews, where they all laid out in the days, weeks, and months after. Going back 10 months ago to September 11th last year, within just a few days and then weeks and months, they laid it all out that their sources said there was a stand-down ordered by Obama, that there was a giant arms cache there with the ambassador from Turkey being there, and then it was being transferred to Syria, and that the Benghazi security force had been ordered to basically go over and kill the ambassador and everybody inside by an unnamed group. Who do you think pays them? The White House. To get rid of witnesses so they could basically have plausible deniability later and say, oh my gosh, al-Qaeda got all these missiles, we've got to take your rights away. They've got thousands of missiles crippling Europe and the U.S. We've got to set checkpoints up everywhere and take all your rights and have the TSA, stick their hands down your pants everywhere because of al-Qaeda. We laid all that out with our guest and our sources, who weren't speculating. They were told this from September of last year and October and November. 7 different links, 3 of them posted, video interviews / radio with Colonel Schaefer, Wayne Madsen, Dr. Steve Pieczenik on the show first on our broadcast, breaking down exactly what happened at Benghazi. And ladies and gentlemen, if I knew this a few days and a few weeks after the entire government in the State Department, the FBI, the CIA, the Defense Department, NATO, they all know. There was 2 Predator drones over. There was a C-130. It took them 14 hours to get personnel there. They stood down for over 6 hours to let them be killed. That is a premeditated, deliberate stand down. And we have a congresswoman who is a former ambassador saying only the president could order a stand down of something of that magnitude on a State Department facility. And that's what went on. That's what happened. Congresswoman, Obama gave Benghazi stand-down order. And by the way, when Colonel Schaefer was on the broadcast, he ran Stratus Ivy and other major programs, could have killed bin Laden twice, was ordered to stand down in 2000 and 2001, testified in the 9/11 hearings. He was called in and threatened when he came on my show and said that, and couldn't come on for like 6-7 months after that happened, and is only now able to come on the show. I mean, it was a total freak out when he came on and said what he said. And what did he say? Heat-seeking missiles were transferred out of 3 giant warehouses You can look at the Google Maps of this, that were controlled by that building behind it, filled with all of these heavy, medium, and light weapons. We're talking thousands of over 10,000 heat-seeking missiles missing in Libya. Several thousand. I also talked off record to an Air Force colonel that said, yes, they got most of the 10,000 heat-seeking missiles, and there were thousands in that building alone. And you had the Turkish ambassador, the foreign minister, there meeting hours before. My guest broke that months and months before it was in the news. CNN Thursday night came out and said, oh, we're breaking that there were 35 CIA operatives in warehouses behind the building, and that there were missiles and heat-seeking missiles in there. I don't make stuff up, you understand? And I know real information when I get it. Well, the next media outlet that I saw to tell the truth from their sources was the November 11th program on CNBC, the Kudlow Report, with John Batchelor, who I continue to see tell the truth. And I wish this wasn't true. I wish it was just a group of out-of-control jihadis that went and killed some people. I wouldn't be happy about that, but it's a lot less scary than, well, wait a minute. My sources said that they hired several hundred local al-Qaeda militia, the same ones that they'd put in charge in Benghazi when they used that as a base of operations against Gaddafi, NATO, Obama, the globalist. And Congress had some issues with that, obviously, arming al-Qaeda there. And then they were using it to arm out of Libya, the weapons left over from that war, and Gaddafi stockpiles that were pretty high-tech, including British, U.S., and French-made missiles, heat seekers, to then give those to al-Qaeda, that is the main force, attacking Assad in Syria, to then turn that country over to al-Qaeda. And again, I've been telling you this for over 2 years. Now it's mainstream news that, yes, al-Qaeda makes up over 60% of the main fighters against Assad. Again, showing that our so-called government is using these people to destabilize the world and as a pretext to take our liberties. But this is a big deal that this has now been confirmed, because you have Colonel Schaefer and Wayne Madsen and Dr. Pieczenik and all these government sources we have, and an Air Force colonel separately that I talked to off record just a month after it happened, all confirmed what is just widely known. The Air Force colonel said it is widely known. Anybody with an intelligence clearance knows it, because it was in situation rooms in the Pentagon, situation rooms in Langley, Virginia at the CIA, the NSA, on the aircraft carriers, the Mediterranean, at the NATO headquarters. They all had feeds of it happening in high def from the predators. And he said he talked to people that were on duty and witnessed it. And I mean, and people sat there as it played out hour after hour. It's one thing if you drop a missile and then a kid walks outside the hut, you go, oh my gosh, we killed a kid. It's another thing to sit there and watch people killed and fighting back hour after hour and being ordered to stand down. And then to see it all lied about in the media. And so there was a stand down. The security that they hired to run Benghazi was the group. We have their name, the list, all of it, that went and did the killing. But they had inside knowledge of how to attack the facility. That's now come out. Everything we were told came out later to be confirmed. And now CNN and the London Telegraph and AP and others are saying, yes, we've talked to CIA people. They're being given monthly polygraphs, something that's usually done every 2 years, to find out if they're talking to the media, to cover up what's happening. And these people are so mad about what happened, they tell us it was an arms deal and it was missiles and heat-seeking missiles. I mean, boom. That's Jack Tapper reporting that. So let's go to a small clip from that full report. 9+ months after we told you first, again, we know what we're talking about. This has now come out. And the bigger issue is, if we know, if Alex Jones knows, if my guests know, the whole system knows, okay? So this is not a mystery to people in government. This is not a mystery to the media whores.
Yeah, the speculation on Capitol Hill has included that, Jake, the possibility that the U.S. agencies operating in Benghazi were actually secretly helping to move specifically surface-to-air missiles out of Libya through Turkey and into the hands of Syrian rebels. The State Department told us they were only helping the new Libyan government destroy weapons that were deemed damaged, aged, or too unsafe to retain, and that the State Department was not involved in any transfer of weapons to other countries. But the State Department, Jake, clearly told us they can't speak for any other agencies, meaning the CIA. And when you start talking about missions, the CIA just flatly would not go on record.